The Iowa Democratic Party is releasing more results from Monday night's caucuses, showing Pete Buttigieg and Senator Bernie Sanders leading the field. The delayed release of the caucus results has sparked concerns that the top candidates won't receive polling bumps seen in previous election cycles. Briahna Joy Gray joins me now from Washington. She is the National Press Secretary for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
How is the campaign feeling about what we've been seeing out of Iowa so far?
We're enormously gratified to see that all of the activism that we've seen in the state, that all of the energy, all of the volunteers that have flown in from across the country to help have yielded results insofar as that Bernie Sanders is #1 in the popular vote in Iowa. That is the metric that we have been talking about since 2016, the metric that I think best reflects the energy on the ground in Iowa, and it's that energy that we are hoping to ride into New Hampshire in about a week.
Oh, I want to play a little bit of what former Mayor Pete Buttigieg said Monday night before any results had been released. Let's listen to that.
So we don't know all the results, but we know by the time it's all said and done, Iowa, you have shocked the nation. By all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious.
How did the Sanders campaign view that statement on Monday night?
Look, I think you have to respect the voters, every single voter that came out and tried to caucus, right? So, for example, we haven't seen any tallies from any of the satellite caucuses. And we know that satellite caucuses are caucuses in which immigrant populations, minority populations, first-time voters are overrepresented. Those are the groups that disproportionately vote for Bernie Sanders. And those are also the groups that really need to feel like there is a lot of faith and confidence in this process. We don't want the people who we've been talking to, who we've been convincing that it matters to come out, right? We've had to have conversations with folks who don't normally see themselves represented and don't normally understand that their vote actually can yield a good result and a material result for their lives. Now they're being told that before their votes are even counted, that someone else is claiming victory, especially in light of the fact that Bernie Sanders still leads in the popular vote and we don't know what the actual outcome is going to be. It feels a little premature.
Is it disappointing, though, that at this point, it appears anyway, Pete Buttigieg has more state delegate equivalents?
No, it's likely that as we come out of this, we're going to both get the same number of delegates nationally going forward. So the delegate tie is a delegate tie. So when you're looking at electability, trying to make the case for who's going to be the best candidate in New Hampshire and beyond, you got to look more broadly than that. You got to look at who's raising the most money. You got to look at who's actually able to put together the kind of coalition that it takes to win outside of Iowa. We know that Pete has concentrated his energies in that state, but when you look at the diverse demographics that actually comprise the base of the Democratic Party, you see that Bernie Sanders is much, much stronger there. And up until this point, the only person that has been at all competitive with non-white voters other than Bernie Sanders is Joe Biden. And what we've seen coming out of Iowa is the only person who is both most popular with white voters, most popular with non-white voters, has the energy, the volunteer effort, et cetera, behind him is Bernie Sanders. And that's why I think we're going to see him as the standard bearer going forward.
Let's talk about New Hampshire. A new poll from WBZ, the Boston Globe, and Suffolk University has Senator Sanders in first place. How does Senator Sanders plan to hold on to his lead until next week's primary?
Yeah, I mean, you don't fix what's not broken. And again, our volunteer effort and our on-the-ground effort there is absolutely extraordinary. This campaign relies on something called relational organizing, which means that we are asking people to share the stories of why they support Bernie Sanders with their peers, with their neighbors, so that they understand what the stakes really are. And in all of this horse race conversation, I really hope that we don't lose sight of what the stakes are. Overwhelming majorities of Democratic voters are saying that healthcare is essential concern. And nobody in this race is trusted, according to polls, as much as Bernie Sanders is on health care. So we have people who are voting because they have gone bankrupt due to medical bankruptcy, because they've lost loved ones, because they haven't been able to afford prescriptions, or because the deductible was so high that they didn't seek medical treatment. And that's what we're talking about in this election, keeping those stories front and center, keeping what millions of Americans are suffering from front and center is how we're going to pull through and make sure that the enthusiasm doesn't lag because of this confusion over the Iowa process.
Well, in South Carolina, a recent poll has Senator Sanders in second place behind Joe Biden. And here's what the former vice president had to say about Senator Sanders Wednesday in New Hampshire.
But if Senator Sanders is a nominee for the party, every Democrat in America up and down the ballot, in blue states, red states, purple states, it's easy districts and competitive ones, every Democrat will have to carry the label Senator Sanders has chosen for himself. He calls him, and I don't criticize him, he calls himself a democratic socialist. Well, we're already seeing what Donald Trump is going to do with that.
What's your response to that?
Well, look, I'm sure Joe Biden remembers that lots of people called his running mate, Barack Obama, socialist quite a bit in 2008. And the reality is polls have demonstrated that the sting has really gone out of that label. When people ask what it means to be a democratic socialist, Bernie Sanders responds with what he stands for, what the issues are. He talks about believing that teachers should have a minimum salary of $60,000 a year. He talks about doubling union membership. He talks about the fact that in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we shouldn't be paying twice as much for health care as other similarly industrialized countries and not getting even half of the results, right? So when we talk about those issues, voters routinely say, hey, I'm not sure about those labels, but I'm sure about Bernie Sanders. He ranks as one of the most trusted politicians in America, the most liked, senator with the highest favorables. And that's what people are looking to when they're making those kinds of decisions. Who can I trust with my life and my livelihood come November?
Briahna Joy Gray. Briahna, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.